All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who has joined us from different locations. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Tanmay, and I'm part of the developer community team. During the webinar today, find out how Temenos experts quickly created an intelligent solution using Transact APIs, AI, ML, Quantum, and Temenos Infinity that can transform customer relationship management, CRM, in banking and delivers improved customer experience. Our hosts today, Hitesh, who's the director of product, and Aditya from the product team, again, would give you more details on the topic and discuss the solution that they built in under 48 hours. So it's going to be a very interesting session. Before we start, let me tell you a few things. That we have a Q&A panel to ask questions, so do not post it in the chat panel. Make sure to ask in the Q&A panel. We have experts monitoring the panel, and they'll give you answers as and when that is possible. We are also recording the webinar, and we will post it on Basecamp so that you can later see it or share with your colleagues, peers, and friends. So let's start the presentation. Over to you, Hitesh.
Okay, I think Aditya will get started with his stuff, and I will
Sure.
follow up with him. Okay.
Sure. So let me give you the access. Now you can start sharing. Yes.
I'm sorry, please excuse me. I didn't realize I was on mute. So hello all, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everybody. So what we built is a modern customer relationship analysis and management system by leveraging Transact, AIML, and Infinity. And so the solution overall would enable banks get a deeper understanding of their customers and improve their engagement level, which in turn would drive higher customer satisfaction and banking activity. So this was the motto of a solution. Now, what this led to ultimately was a win-win situation where both the parties, the bank and as well as the customer, would benefit. So we built all of the solution into Infinity and Transact, and we'll give you a live demonstration today. So stay tuned. So our solution in a nutshell would primarily involve extracting data from 3 different sources: the T24 Transact, which contains all the core, the core banking related information of a customer, basically the transactional information; the Quantum, the platform on which all the digital applications are built, has some rich data about how, the usage pattern of the customer of the digital applications, the app behavior, and etc. Now, Infinity would have the digital profile information of the customer. So when we aggregate all of this, we have a consolidated customer-centric data. And when we analyze it through an AI and deep learning model that we custom built for this solution, we get some really keen insights into the customer's profile. And when we present all of this onto Customer 360, that is the application used by bank employees to manage their customers, it takes the customer relationship management to a new improved level. So this is our solution in a nutshell. So going a little further into the solution, I'll just quickly walk you through the data points what we are extracting through each source. So the first source is T24 Transact, through which we can get the profile accounts, the transactions, and transactional value, which is basically all about the money movement activity of a customer. And the Quantum, as said, that is the platform on which the digital applications are built, will tell us about the digital app usage behavior. And finally, Infinity, which will give us the digital profile information of the customer. So when we aggregate all of this data and analyze it, what we could identify is the customer's opinion and the customer's attachment. Now, once we had these 2 scores, customer segmentation became possible. So once we, based on the satisfaction and activity level, if we classify the customers, they broadly fall into either of these 4 quadrants. Now, ideally, banks would want their customers to be in top right corner, where the satisfaction and activity level is pretty high. And our motto is to enable banks to do this. So before we go further, Hitesh will explain the the data points, what we capture, and the way we analyze them, and the heart of all this, which is the AI/ML model, and how it works, and how we have integrated it into Fabric. Over to Hitesh.
Hey, hi. So as Aditya mentioned that our motto was to really see the customer opinion, what they feel about the bank, and what is their attachment score, right? So this really involved generating two modules to really gauge how customer is engaged with the bank. So the first model was tuned towards getting the customer opinion score, which is positive, neutral, and negative. And the second model was tuned towards mm, active, getting the customer attachment score, which is active or inactive, right? Now, to generate any AI/ML model, what we need is a data, right? Given that needed to build this solution in just 48 hours, we choose to really build supervised learning machine learning models, which which is fine tuned based on some of the data that we gathered, and give these ratings to a customer. So now, Aditya, can you move over to the Excel sheet? Right.
Sure.
So what we did was, right, we really looked at all of the systems that we have, which Aditya mentioned previously, and we determined, we gathered some of the data, and the data is like the messages that comes from the Infinity core. So what we do is we pass each message that customer talks with the bank representative through an AI/ML model, right, which can determine the sentiment of that message, right? So you can see a messages for each customer, or for each kind of a message, we basically have a message sentiment, which is positive, negative, or neutral, and we have a corresponding score, right? So score basically says that the model basically predicts that how much percent the message seems to be positive versus negative, right? For example, 73% the model is confident that this message is of a positive tone. If you go to a second or third row, you will see that 9% the model is capital confident about it being a negative, right? So what we did is, like, we had a model which can to which we can pass all of the messages that customer interacts with the bank, and give this matches sentiment score and matches sentiment, right? So that's one kind of data that we had. The second data that we had was really a total number of successful uh, actions that user performs on a digital bank, right? Successful and failed actions, right? Now, there are two parts to this successful and failed actions. Some of the actions that user performs, and these are really not an action, these are basically interaction that happens between your digital channel and your backend. In our terms, it's an experience API at the Fabric layer, right? So some of the actions are intentional. For example, you can make a payment, you can go see the details of your accounts and things like that. Some of the actions are intentional, but some of the actions are unintentional, right? So when you log into the app, there are multiple backend calls that we make, and user is really unaware of it, and any of those calls can fade, right? So what we did was we modified a Fabric SDK to bit, so that we 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 count each actions that user has performed, and whether it's resulted in success and failures, and we gather that data from a quantum, right? We also gather data about user login sessions, and this is basically data captured over a period of time, right? The messages and the sessions are captured over the period of time, right? And for our demo purpose, we stick it to 7 days, but it was kind of configurable to have for 30 days and things like that. So we capture this data over a period of time, and we pass it through a machine learning model, right? So, and at the end, we basically generate a overall opinion score about a customer, right? And overall attachment score with even our model will also give a confidence, how confident it is that customer is positive or negative, or he is active or inactive, right? So for example, if you look at the first row, right, you would see that his messages scores are positive, right? But you will see the number of transactions failed are more, if you just compare the things like that. And overall, he is not very active as compared to the other users, and hence it becomes inactive, right? So what we did is we kind of prepared all of this data, and we did our own manual analysis whether this is a negative opinionated customer or positive opinionated customer, right? Or he is active customer or inactive customer, because we needed to build a supervised learning model, and supervised learning model needs a labeling or classification of the customer upfront to really generate the model. So we did that work, and then I think Aditya, you can go back to slides again, right? So then we really required to perform few steps to generate this model, and we kind of used PyTorch and Google Colab to build our models, right? So the first step was really loading a data, right? And there are a lot of libraries available in Python to do it. So we use pandas over here to load the data, to tune the data as we need. And then we kind of used a multi-level perceptron classifier. This is an AI ML model, right, which we built, right? And can you go to a next slide, right? So, and then the next step that involves is, once you have this once you decide on what model that you need to build, we basically need to fine tune it so that it predicts results in a better fashion. So there are several layers, several number of parameters that we looked at, like the activation scope algorithm, or activation parameters to be used, the solver, and hidden layers, how many hidden layers we want in our neural network, and things like that. And we pass it through a defined process so that the fine-tuned parameters are available to us. And once we have these fine-tuned parameters, we kind of generate the model. Can you go to the next slide? We kind of generate the model and save those models, right? So once these models are saved, we can download them, and again use it on our servers, right? So what we did is we saved this model, and once we have the right models available, we kind of deployed them on the Python Flux server, and which is now giving us an API which can be passed, which we can call with the required input parameters, and it can give you a opinion and attachment score for a customer. So all in all, so we had one model to kind of give you a sentiment on a messages, and then we built another two models to really give you an opinion and attachment score about a customer, and we deployed it on a Flask server, right? So once this Flask server was available, we could easily pass the data to the server and get his opinion and attachment score, right? So that was the AI/ML piece which was involved in our POC or model, that solution that we built, right? So that's pretty much, and that I want to talk about how did we build these models and how did we gather the data and things like that. Now Aditya will really talk about integration piece of it. So how did we integrate with the Transact? How did we integrate with the Infinity and build this end-to-end solution? So he will cover the next part. Over to Aditya.
Thank you, Hitesh. So basically, as said, now the model, gives us the satisfaction and activity level of every customer, right? So we wanted banks to, take business actions to drive customers to the top right corner. So what we did is we considered Infinity, which is basically a suite of digital banking applications and the features that are available in this entire suite. So using these features, we'll try to control the relationship just basically the satisfaction activity level. And, we take automated business actions based on the analysis given by the model. So before we go into the live demonstration, I'll give you a direct walkthrough of the Fabric application, which is basically, the backend part of the entire solution. And then we'll go to a live demonstration. So our first step was to discover the APIs, and we leveraged the Temenos API catalog. So this is a place where all the APIs are well documented, categorized, and also you have the Swagger API spec that is available for download. So once we had the, have identified the data, what we needed, and the APIs that we were going to be using, we integrated them into Fabric. So let me just log in into Fabric and show you how it works. So here is the Customer 360 backend application. And the first step was to integrate with Transact, which is basically the core banking system where all the transactional data was available. So, we leveraged the JSON service feature of Fabric, and we could simply give the endpoints what we wanted, and we just specified the fields what we would be using to extract the data. So the first step was to get the data from Transact, and this was the way we have integrated it just by configuring it as a JSON service within Fabric. Now, the second step was to integrate with the machine learning model, which Hitesh has just explained. And since the ML model exposes an API to be through which we can access it, integrating it also was just a one-step effort. So right now, the machine learning model is running on my local. So I just have my local domain name, and it has got one operation called analyze, to which we pass all the data. And once we had the integration with the machine learning model and the Transact information, the core banking system, the only part left was to aggregate the information from Transact and feed it to the ML model so that it gives us the analysis. So to do all that, which is basically a service orchestration, we built one service orchestration service, which contains these three operations. First one was to refresh all the customer relationship data points. So obviously we will be doing this in batches, right? So once we done an analysis of this week, it may change next week. So we maintain a persistent copy of this on our local database. So the first step was to refresh the data as we keep running this as a scheduled job. The next step was to simply run everything through the AI/ML model. And once we had the analysis, the results, basically, we wanted to perform the business actions. So the business actions were basically like this. So we'll consider a customer whose satisfaction is high, but the activity level is low. So to a customer like this, it does not make sense if the bank reaches out with a very premium product and tries to promote it. So it is it would logically make more sense if we promote the basic general products which he or she is already entitled to. And once the customer is you better using the banking products, then there's an opportunity for a better upsell. So that is what automatically happens in case of a customer whose satisfaction is high, but the activity level is low. Now, another critical use case is basically when satisfaction is low and activity level is low. So this is a case where the customer is on the verge of quitting the bank. Now, in this case, the bank has to provide direct attention to the customer and try to save the relationship. So what happens is a message is sent out to the CSR, and a message is also sent out to the customer proactively, even without the customer ever complaining on his own, saying that, hey, we apologize for the negative experience that you may have had. And then, the bank just requests for one chance to do the needful so that the relationship is improved. And obviously, in this case, it does not make sense for the bank to reach out with premium products. So he's assigned to the general awareness campaign. So one more point that I would like to make clear here is that the satisfaction level is not based only on the message tone. So if we are analyzing only on the message tone, it means we are in a reactive model, which basically like, we take action when the customer complains. But that's not the case. So our ML model, the data points as explained by Hitesh are very diverse in nature. And even though a customer has never complained through a direct message, if that if there's a case where the digital app was behaving very badly for him, like if the number of successful callbacks is far lesser than the number of failure callbacks, the quantum, which is, one of our key data source, tracks all that. And that raises a red flag, and he falls into the negative opinionated customer. So basically, this is a case where banks can switch from a reactive model to a proactive model. So this is basically the way we have integrated into Fabric, and the way we do the analysis and everything. And we also enable banks to do this on a timely basis, like, once a week or something. So what we did was, to schedule it as a timely job, which runs every week on all the customers, so that we always have the latest data and the latest relationship analysis of the customer. So within Fabric, there's an option to schedule a job. So we have scheduled it to run every day, and you can simply do have the retention period. You can track all the different previous runs and everything. So this was what we had to cover on Fabric, and we'll move to a live demo. So in the live demo, what we will consider is one customer for whom, things are looking good, and we'll consider another customer for whom things are not looking so good. So we will be using Customer 360. That is the application used by bank employees to monitor the customer, manage the customer, and we'll be using the online banking application through which the customer can log in into his or her digital accounts. So here is Customer 360, and I'm just logging in with the bank employee's credentials. And if we go to customer management, and if we search for a customer called Harry Crisp, we can see his opinion and attachment score. So basically both of them are positive, but then, they're not very high. The attachment is on the lower side, and opinion is still on moderate. It is not even above 50%. So in this case, if the customer logs in into his online banking application, so this is the application used by the customer Harry Crisp to access his digital profile. So if you see, what we have here is the campaigns that are being shown to a customer. And since he falls onto this quadrant where the activity level is also not looking very high, but the satisfaction is decent, he sees, campaigns that are a part of the general awareness. Now, just a quick takeaway here. If you see all these transactions, right, the accounts and everything, all these are coming directly from Transact, and the integration between the Infinity application and Transact was seamless by leveraging the API developer portal that I've just shown on the starting of the demonstration. So what we'll do is we will perform some business actions so that the activity level improves. So what I'm doing, and I'm considering messages here because it's a case where the score is directly impacted at a very, in a very significant manner. So in the interest of time, I'll just reply to one of the message. So there is a thread that is already going on, and let's say the customer has given, the bank has given a positive reply. So here's a case where the customer would be happy. So I'll say, thank you for the quick support. This is just a sample message, what he or she is sending. So there's a new message that the customer has just sent to the bank. But what we'll do, we will run the analysis again, and we'll see what happens. So it would have pulled the latest messages. It would have fed it to the ML model, and it would have refreshed the scores. So if we go back to Customer 360, and let me just see his updated profile. So opinion has gone high, and the attachment has also improved. Now, if the customer just refreshes this page also, we'll see that the campaign has changed. So now he's a part of the premium awareness campaign, because the customer is happy and he has a better opportunity for an upsell. Now, what if there's a customer who's not very happy? Let's go to another profile called Roberts. and the opinion is low, it's actually negative, which means, inactive to about 40%, and attachment is also negative to about 40 to 45%. Now, if we log in into the customer, which we're considering here, we'll see what actually happens. So the same online banking application. So this customer is probably on the verge of quitting the bank and needs immediate attention. So the campaign here is again a part of the general awareness. Now, UPI is a payment gateway that almost every customer in India is entitled to. So we're just showing a UPI payment campaign. We're not trying to promote anything premium because there's no chance that the customer would buy more from the bank. But the real thing is, the bank has automatically analyzed it and it has sent a message proactively with a new thread that has got created with the subject called experience improvement. And it said, hey, we noticed that you've had an unpleasant banking experience with us, and the bank is trying to save the relationship. Now, even there's a thread that is assigned to one of the CSR agents so that he or she can act on it. Here. So this is assigned to C360 administrator Koni. So this could be some bank employee who handles customer relationships. So all of this happened just by running the analysis on the data. And this is pretty much what we had to cover on the live demo. I think that's it for the day. So this is what we could build in just under 48 hours by leveraging the API developer portal to understand Transact, and by using the features of Infinity, and we just wanted to convey what is possible using the data that is available on the 3 different sources that I've shared at the initial, the start of this presentation. Over to Tanmay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Hitesh. Thank you so much, Aditya, for your time and session today. It was indeed a very good session, and along with the demo, which makes it more, useful. And I'm sure the audience it will, make use of it. And if there are any questions to everyone, if there are any questions on this webinar, or how they've done it, you can post it in the Q&A panel while we are here, and Hitesh and Aditya can answer in the Q&A panel. If you have question and answers, to ask later, then we have a active Basecamp community where you can post your questions in the forum, and we'll try our best to, post our answers over there. There are a couple of more announcements that I need to make. Hitesh, can you just give me the ball? Just a minute.
I have to do it. I think Aditya or B. I'm sorry.
No, I think Aditya will do it.
Yeah. So one thing I think a lot of people are asking about, how do I share my collab notebook and the Excel? So I think we both will work out on that and send it to the audience. Not the entire solution, but at least collab and other things can be easily shared with them.
Right. All right. So if you guys see, there is a Temenos Scale Global Developer event, which is happening in Madrid, Spain. So if you guys are interested, make sure that you go to the event and registration link that you see on the page. And there are a lot of things to explore over there. So make sure you visit the link. And in case if you're interested to join, make sure that you register so that we have your details, and we'll keep you posted about, what this event is all about and how you can join the event. Plus, there is a Basecamp Scale DevCon group, which is a public group on Basecamp. You can even join that. The link to it is bit.ly/Temenos Scale. Join this group, and if you're interested about this event, and if you want to know more, we'll keep you posted, because that group will have a lot more details about it. The second is that we have announced the early adopter program for Quantum V9. We are about to launch it very soon, but it's still in beta, and we all want you to be a part of this beta program. If you are interested, follow the link that you see below, which is bit.ly/Quantum V9 beta, and then be part of this program. What you can do is, there are a couple of scenarios that you need to follow along with the survey, and there are a few prizes to give away. So make sure that you join this program if you're interested, and give us the feedback to make our product better and your experience better. So that is about the beta program. This slide talks about that there's a Facebook group that you can join. I keep a few posts on this community where you can know about the events that are upcoming. Then there is a Basecamp playlist on YouTube. All the recorded webinars you can find over there. The link is easy to follow: bit.ly/Basecamp channel. Plus, there is a Temenos Cafe Basecamp group. If you're the first time joining this webinar, you might not be aware of this, but we have a Temenos Cafe Basecamp group where we keep people updated about the webinars and multiple events that we do for our developers community, which is bit.ly/Temenos Cafe. You can follow the link and join the group. The next webinar is AI-powered developer assistant called Quantum IQ, which is on March 25th. So if you're really interested about this, go to Basecamp events page and register for this webinar. Exactly after 1 month, we'll have experts from Temenos doing the session, and it'll be really exciting again. So make sure that you register. This webinar recording we will post in the events page, basecamp.temenos.com/s/events. This page you will see the recorded webinar. You can share the link with the people who have not joined. And plus the future upcoming webinars will also be listed. If you have any content that you want to see in future, in one of the webinars that we do, then you can send it to us on basecamp@temenos.com, and we'll make sure that we speak to our experts and make sure we align something based on your favorite topic. So that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for joining today. It was indeed useful, and we will see you on Basecamp soon again. Thank you so much. We're still here for a couple more minutes. If you have questions, post it in the Q&A panel, and then we'll close the session. Thank you.